First up to Antonio Conte's future following that extraordinary and very public tirade aimed at Tottenham's players. The Italian repeatedly accused the players of being selfish and of lacking desire and commitment, but has since clarified to the Spurs board that his criticism was not aimed at them, but solely the players. Well, our chief reporter, Kaveh Solhekol, is here in the studio. Kaveh, been here all day, but I'm glad you stayed on for us. Is he going to survive this?
Good question. Look, I think Antonio Conte doesn't expect to be sacked. He knows he is in dangerous territory. He knows it is difficult for him to continue as the Spurs manager. And I think this evening it is touch and go whether he survives. The ultimate decision will be taken by Daniel Levy, the Tottenham chairman, and he now has some time. Spurs don't play again for another 2 weeks. So he has to decide whether he takes any action against Antonio Conte. But my information is that Conte stands by what he said. He believes what he said. And I would be very surprised to see him backtracking or apologising for anything he said. Maybe he would regret the fact that it looks like he is attacking the board. He didn't want to do that. But apart from that, there's a lot that he wanted to get off his chest. And he felt that Saturday evening was the right time to do that.
That's interesting you say he stands by what he says, because I was going to say, what was he thinking? And then I was going to say, or was he thinking? But he clearly was thinking.
I think he was thinking. I understand that what he said is something that he feels deeply. It's something that he has felt for a long time. I think maybe it came across as it was an attack on the players and the board. He didn't mean it to be an attack on individual players. I think he meant it to be an attack on the culture at the club. And now he's back in Italy for the time being, for a couple of days during the international break. He has always prided himself on building a winning mentality on every club he's been at. And he would hold his hands up and say he's very disappointed that he has not been able to do that at Spurs with this group of players. He feels that some players in the Spurs squad are happy just to be in the comfort zone. They are willing to settle for mediocrity no matter who is the coach. That is what he was talking about on Saturday, the culture at the club, the mentality of the players. I think he believes that the attitude of the players has been a serious issue at Spurs for a long time, and he's tried to change that, but he hasn't been able to.
Doesn't he have to change, though? His critics will say, look at the style of play. I think Stephen Warnock around this table earlier said it's boring. And also the fact he's had a load of money to spend, more than his predecessors. Are his critics right?
I think his critics have got a very good point. You know, a lot of Spurs fans are fed up with the style of football that they have to watch. They think the style of football is very negative. They don't understand some of the substitutions that Antonio Conte has made, especially recently. And when it comes to transfers, I think the board would say you've had a lot of money to spend. But what Antonio Conte would say is that not all these signings have been my choice. Some of these players have been club signings. He's used that phrase before when referring to players like Spence and Danjuma. But I think he would also compare and contrast what is happening at Spurs with what has happened at Arsenal. He would say, look, we finished above Arsenal last season. Look at the Arsenal players. Look at the way they have fought back. Look at the way they have developed. Look at the way they've signed players in 2 windows with the right mentality, the right attitude that's improved the squad. And I think he would say to you, look at the signings we have made and also the players who've been here before under me. He would say there's been no improvement in their attitude. There's been no improvement in their mentality. They have not developed. In fact, they've gone backwards. And as far as signings are concerned, I think he would say that too many of the new players who have come into the club, instead of improving the squad, have just brought him problems and complaints.
Wow. Our chief reporter, Kaveh Solhekol, thank you very much. Well, Conte's news conference on Saturday night has already gone down as one of the most remarkable of the Premier League era. Here's a very brief reminder of what he said.
They don't want to play under pressure. They don't want to play under stress. Tottenham's story is this. 20 years that there is the owner and never won something. But why? It's time to change the situation if Tottenham wants to change. If they want to continue in this way, they can change manager, a lot of manager, but the situation cannot change, believe me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So what now? Here's our senior reporter, Melissa Reddy. I'm guessing the players weren't best pleased at that attack from their manager. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, I think the overwhelming feeling is that while they admit that some of their performances haven't been up to standard this season, the manager absolving himself from all responsibility is quite strange. They've known for a long time, since January actually, that Antonio Conte's desire is to exit Spurs when his contract expires. And for the last few months, it's actually felt like he would like that to happen even before the end of the season. So it felt bizarre to them that their commitment is being questioned when he himself has not committed to the club and there's been this uncertainty around his future. Now, Conte did say that's an alibi for the players. That's another excuse. People always create excuses for them. And one agent that represents a Spurs player said, well, if you step back and look at it, is this a manager who's been getting the best out of his players? Or is this a manager whose message seemingly is, I'm better than all of you. My career is better than all of you. Because that's what some of the squad seem to be hearing. So obviously not the best space for them to be in. The fact that it's an international break and a lot of the squad have gone away gives them that refresh from this scenario. The others who were not reporting for international duty, they were given 2 days off. They're only back tomorrow. Spurs really need to get a reading of how this group is going to respond to Conte. Because he can say, I was just trying to rouse them. I was thinking about a changing of the culture. The large sentiment is actually Saturday's rant was purely an act of self-preservation.
OK, all right. Is there someone else in this marriage? Maurizio Pochettino. Do the players want him back? Are you hearing that?
Yeah, we reported on Sky Sports News, I think just over a week ago, that several of the players and the staff actually had been in touch with Maurizio Pochettino, asking him to come back. I think that's quite a natural feeling and situation if you think about the bond he had with the players, the journey they went on together. And there is that sense that the progressive football, that feeling and sway with the supporters, the belonging to something greater, something positive, all departed Tottenham when he did in November 2019. The development of players has stalled, and also just any sort of joyousness around the place has been sucked out. So I don't think it's out of the ordinary for them to be, nostalgic and contacting him to speak about that and wanting that feeling back.
What about him? Would he go back?
He definitely would. I know he's not spoken publicly about it, and that's because Maurizio Pochettino isn't really one to court jobs. You think of managers out of work, and you often find them on TV, on every football show going, explaining tactics or talking themselves up for whatever job may become available. He hasn't done that, but what I do know is his affiliation to Spurs is so strong. He still feels a deep sense of responsibility and connection to the club, to the community, to a lot of the players and the staff there. He's still kept his home in North London that he lives with his family in when he's not visiting Spain or Argentina. He watches pretty much all their games. Like I said, that constant stream of information and communication with people at the club. I know the board think very highly of him still. They, say they've got an open door policy to him. He's welcome whenever he'd like to come and visit. I was, however, told that Daniel Levy will be pragmatic when choosing Antonio Conte's successor.
What does that mean?
He won't be swayed by the emotion and what players want and nostalgia and what the past was like. One of the things I was told is he remembers why things ended with Pochettino. Now, I think the Argentines' response to that would be, yes, Daniel, it ended because the refresh I was picking at since 2016 never happened. That's why it got stale, and that's why things ended the way it did, and it shouldn't have.
OK, so if Pochettino were to come back, how different a challenge is now to 2014?
I think it's a completely contrasting situation, not least because if you look at his own circumstance, Pochettino, he would walk into the job now with much greater expectations than the first time around because of what he built at Tottenham, leading them to that Champions League final in 2019 when they were going through stadium upheaval, when they had zero investment in the squad and so many injuries. So the benchmark he set for himself is higher. Then you also look at the squad. The shape of it is different to what he inherited. He's not getting fourth choice striker Harry Kane. He's getting England's captain, a £100 million player that's entering the final year of his contract. So a lot of rebuilding there that needs to be done and reconstructing. Then you look at the landscape of the Premier League itself and how many more competitors you have now. It seems strange to think, but there was a period where only Manchester City had amassed more points than Mauricio Pochettino's Spurs. And what happened, and the juncture that lots of people at Tottenham still point at, is Liverpool, under Jurgen Klopp, sold Felipe Coutinho, went and got Virgil van Dijk and Alisson, and overtook Spurs. And that's seen really as the crucial point of where the departure happened, where Liverpool became City's closest challengers. Now you look at it, you've got Newcastle, look at what Arsenal are doing under Mikel Arteta. And I know Kaveh made the point of, Antonio Conte will see what Arsenal are doing and the players they've brought in and how they've developed, but look at the strategy Arteta's taken. On the pitch, off the pitch, fully immersed himself in changing the culture. Now we have to ask ourselves, has Conte done that at Spurs? Has he shown the willingness to do that at Spurs? Or did he want to be that instant winner that he always has been? And because that's not turning out the way he expected it to, you have what people at the club and the players are speaking about, the self-preservation.
Melissa, this is to be continued. For the moment, thank you very much.